Alright, if you watched part 1 you'll know where we are. If you haven't watched part 1, better do that. So what I've got to do now is scribe a line around the inside here, which should be fairly easy. I've got the right tools now, and then I can take it apart, trim it, and move on to the next stage. Alright, it's an easy bit to trim. So, straight round like that. We'll offer it up and see if we need to do any more. That's not too bad. It's going to need a little bit of finessing, but it'll come. I'm just going to sand away the high spots, and hopefully the lows will come up and fit fairly nicely. Alright, we've got some tacks on, but something's gone wrong this side, so I've just split 2 of those tacks open with the saw, and I'm going to put it back in the vise and give it a squeeze. Yeah, there we go. It's going to work to close the gap. We'll just grind those tacks out and re-weld them, and then I'll do the rest of the welding. Right, I'm not going to show that, but it turned out okay. I had to go back and just fill a couple of craters after I'd given it a light bead blast, but that's slowly improving there. And next stage is to grind off the high spots on the weld and try it on the machine. Test run. Yeah. Alright, we're into the final phase now, which is carefully dressing away these high spots and looking for the low spots. We'll probably bring up the low spots by tapping them against a dolly inside. But first of all, I want to run some paper over it and just see where they are, how bad they are, and how much work we've got to do. At the moment, it's not looking too bad at all, so I'm going to persevere with that. Now, annoyingly, most of the work to be done is at the front, where the welds intersect. Now, if I was smart and with 20/20 hindsight, I would put the welds at the back where you can't see them. I wasn't originally intending to dress them down like this, so here's what it is. Now, here's where I'm going to try and just bring up the low spots by beating on them with a fairly heavy curved dolly behind. It is actually working. Alright, I learned a lot doing this, having watched Ray Shalene's videos, ProShaper.com, using the Sharpie, and rubbing the Sharpie off leaves the low spots blue, and you can go back and raise them up with the dolly. Very good practice technique. Alright, it's coming. I want to ideally arrive at the stage where I can bring up those lows, fill them with primer and paint, and not remove too much material by sanding. Alright, after a bit of work, it started to look okay, so it's now time for a little bit of surface treatment and paint. Alright, we're going in with just a surface treatment to help the paint stick. I'm only doing the outside because this needs to be food safe on the inside. Light coat of primer, and then we will come in with some primer and filler. Alright, that's done. Now we're going to give it a light dusting of black after a couple of coats of that primer. The black's going to act as a guide coat, which again is a bit like the Sharpie. When we start rubbing, it's going to reveal the lows. Alright, and here we go. Anywhere where black remains when I start flatting the primer, is a low spot. It needs to be rubbed out, if it will, without going through to too much shiny metal, which I think most of these will. I may have to prime and flat this a couple of times. I may use a block as I get towards the end, but I think it's going to come up quite well actually. Alright guys, here is the finished article, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. This is going to have to be our little secret, because there's a dent there. I think I dropped it, and by the time I had paint on it, it wasn't worth either going back in with the welder or trying to get inside to tap it out and refill it and reprime it. There's some slight undulations where I filled the weld on the front. The smart thing to do, obvious with hindsight, blindingly obvious, would be to put the weld down the back where you can't see it. But overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Alright, so the finished article is here, and I think I'm pretty happy with how that turned out, because we're looking at something that kind of suits the grinder. The coffee falls down it really nicely, and it's a lot better than this. It didn't really suit a nice Italian grinder and an Italian coffee machine. Right, I wanted you to just see it one more time, and I need to say thank you to Jody at weldingtipsandtricks.com. Great channel, check it out. Rachelene, proshaper.com. Also amazing sheet metal work, welding, fabrication, dressing of welds. I'll try and link some of those videos that are relevant to this one in the description. And Ron Cavell, who also does amazing sheet metal work, again with welding and cleaning, polishing. And I hope you enjoyed. There it is.